Hi everyone, thank you for watching and welcome to TYT Community. I'm your host Rhiannon Evanine, and also here with me my very esteemed co-host Jeff Waldorf. Our honored guest with us today is Pirate Fish, or as we know him, Brian, our resident Canadian. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Today I want to talk about a giant drug bust that happened locally about 2 hours away locally from where I live in Columbus, Ohio. 800 marijuana plants were confiscated from a private marijuana ring. And once again, this is a perfect example about how police forces are being utilized and how money is being wasted and how people are unjustly being sent to prison for the cultivation of plants. Can we open this up for discussion? Jeff, I want your views on this. What do you think?
Why are we wasting money? Why is this news? For one, why is, and this is my opinion, why is this news? Why are we spending money on, once again, arresting people for something that grows in the fucking dirt, that is natural, that has been proven to not only be not dangerous, but has been proven to be incredibly beneficial through the different studies. Now, of course, here in America, we're in a bubble, so we don't allow a lot of different studies. But like I said, why is this news?
Right. I didn't choose this story because it's extraordinary. I chose this story for quite the opposite, because it's completely ordinary. It happens so often in our everyday lives. Money is getting wasted, police resources are being misused, and we're arresting people sometimes for life for cultivating plants that have literally been shown to be absolutely harmless and can even be beneficial to many people for many, many different reasons. Marijuana can be used as a building material, it can be used as food, it can be used as paper, it can be utilized into fabrics. We could literally have a self-sustaining country and enrich our economy by utilizing this vital natural resource that can be replanted every year. It's self-sustaining. Pirate Fish, you live in Canada. You can smoke there legally. How do you feel about this story?
Well, no, let me correct you. We can't smoke here legally. It is still on the books. It's a criminalized drug. I mean, it's still a scheduled drug, a narcotic. But the courts here, the police and the courts realized long ago that it's simply on the books, and it's really stupid. The courts here many years ago, going back a couple of decades now, started to realize what a waste of money all these prosecutions were, because nobody was getting in trouble. They were handing out fines and slaps on the wrist. People were getting arrested. Cops were spending their time arresting people for this shit, and it was just bogging down the court systems. And they said, you know what, guys, chill out. Don't worry about it so much. So it's
but you do have legal medical marijuana there.
Well, even that's questionable. It is around, and again, it's more a blind eye that's turned to it than it's not a legal substance here. It's not formally decriminalized. It's just treated like a decriminalized drug. If the cops catch you with it, they're gonna confiscate it. They're gonna throw it out. They're not gonna do much more to you. So that's sort of the extent of it here. Nobody's worried about it. If you're selling the stuff, that's a whole different issue. They're gonna go after you for that. So it's not a legal substance here, but it's on a user basis, on a casual user basis, it's not something you've got to walk around the streets and be paranoid about. If you're dealing it, that's a different story. Or even growing it. You can't grow it either, so those are things you still have to worry about here.
But that's not the case in, I'm sorry, Jeff, but that's not the case in Washington and Colorado anymore. It is legal. It is legal for recreational use, so the question still stands, why are we wasting time and resources going after and arresting people for cultivating a plant that is in now other states in the same country perfectly legal for recreational use. And in Canada, at least there seems to be sort of a common sense, unspoken agreement about it.
Let me address something, because this goes back to, Jeff, your question to begin, which was, why are we wasting our time? And to say that, Ree, you in essence kind of answered his question with your comment, and that being, let's remember why this is a Schedule I drug. Why it has been classified as illegal. It's got nothing to do with anything scientific based. There is absolutely no scientific basis behind it. There's no clinical testing that says this should be a drug or that it's a hazardous substance or a hazardous drug, no more than there is on nicotine or any other, or alcohol or any other similar drug. We have to go back a few decades and remember William Randolph Hearst. This is why why marijuana is illegal. And it's not even the marijuana that was targeted originally. It was the hemp. And this was Hearst. Hearst wanted being the mogul that he wanted the monopoly on paper. And hemp was going to replace wood for paper. And from foreign sources, primarily South America and more tropical climate places. So he was very concerned about this. And now we're getting into money in politics going back decades, because that is how marijuana became a Schedule I drug. It was classified illegal because of this industry that it was threatening to hurt, such as paper products, clothing, food sources, supplements, this kind of thing. The industrialists, the moguls at the time, they weren't going to have that. So that is why this became what it did. And the Americans just went nuts from there. Then it became a war, the Mexicans, got the illegals and stuff crossing the border, and it just snowballed into this war that it is today.
Look, here's what I wanted to jump in with. Yes, you just actually addressed the point that I was going to make. It is that big elephant in the room. It's called the money. Okay, once again, follow the money, Lebowski. And you have, you've got private prison corporations as well that are enriching themselves off of filling prisons with nonviolent drug offenders. And I'm pretty sure they choose the nonviolent drug offenders because they're easier to control, and they fill the beds up. And so these these prison corporations, and by the way, there was a prison corporation that actually had enough money to put their name on a fucking stadium. So by the way, this football game brought to you by Geo Group.
And invariably, the weed issue has to go back to the private prison issue, because that's the real reason.
They are directly linked. Right.
It originally started with the threat marijuana, or hemp rather. Hemp is the whole plant. Marijuana is the flower of the plant, just to clarify for everyone out there. The hemp was threatening the timber industry, yes, but it was also an anti-Mexican propaganda campaign that also was part of the reason that marijuana was demonized as a society.
Well, yeah, and it's also why marijuana became called marijuana,
right? Because
it sounded more Mexican. It demonized the Mexican element even more. It was, and it's escaped me right at the moment what they called it before they called it marijuana.
I think they just called it cannabis.
Pretty much, or weed or something like that. But yeah,
here in America too, we've had quite a history with using drug scheduling for for basically institutional racism and the fight against immigrants. Once again, it was the I'm not sure if it was the poppy seed. We used something against the Chinese immigrants in the 1800s before it was a legal substance, but there are a lot of Chinese people that were coming over here and working on the railroads.
The opium.
The opium
poppy,
plant.
Yeah, from the poppy plant.
Poppy,
opium,
yeah.
Yes, that's it. So they would come over here and work the rail lines, and they would bring opium with them, And of course, our lawmakers at the time would say, well, we don't want those Chinese people here. So what we're going to do is that we're going to make opium illegal, for one, because it was a commonly used drug back then, back in the mid 1800s. So they made it illegal to try and stem the flow of immigrants coming over from China. So we have used drug policy as a barrier against immigrants, and we're still using it today.
Well, yeah, and that's another issue. Definitely, you drove right into another issue, which is another reason that marijuana is kept a Schedule I drug is because of big pharma and the fact that marijuana is such a cheap and convenient and easy and enjoyable way of treating so many different things, whether it be chemotherapy or depression or sleeplessness or glaucoma, and the drug companies don't want that, obviously, because they make more money by selling you these pills and these drugs that often cause other problems that you have to take other drugs for, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. These drugs are a lot more easy to patent than marijuana.
And once again, you have the elephant in the room. You've got Big Pharma that buys politicians to enforce tough on crime drug laws, and pays people like the head of the DEA. Yes, the head of the DEA that doesn't know if marijuana is more dangerous than cocaine or more addictive than cocaine, when there are numerous studies out there that show that. Do you know how many joints you can smoke before you die? Nobody knows, because it has never happened.
You couldn't possibly smoke that much. You'd pass out first.
Exactly.
I can't think of her name, but she knows this information.
Someone told her to never admit it.
That's right.
Someone told her, do not admit it.
Somebody paid her to not admit it.
No, if she had even in the slightest admitted that she knows it doesn't belong on the schedule, that would have been the end of it. Then it would have collapsed had she said that. So the question was valid. The question was poignant. But there was no way she could answer that question honestly. So all she could do was play dumb. That was her only out in that situation, was play dumb.
Sadly, we have a lot of politicians that do the same thing, that don't understand, that they don't understand, or maybe they do understand.
Just look at a science textbook in Texas.
But they're getting paid to, once again, parrot the paranoia that we saw in the 50s, the propaganda, I'm sorry, that we saw in the 50s with all of this anti-pot, these anti-pot films that would show people going absolutely crazy and killing people and whatnot for being high on marijuana, and it's not true.
Absolutely. So, you have pharma, you have the private prisons, you have the lumber industry, you have all the politicians who are bought by all of these people to make sure that marijuana stays illegal. But something that's good is that even with all of those factors that are against marijuana legalization, you still have Colorado and Washington that were forward enough and progressive enough to say, no, we don't believe in what you're selling. We're going to legalize it and see for ourselves. And not only that, we want the Obama administration to stay out of our state. And the
one thing the Obama administration has been incredibly hypocritical on, look, I'm a progressive, and yes, I do bash Obama a lot on a lot of the things that he does wrong. And this is one of them. His drug policy is terrible. He promised that, during the 2008 campaign, that he would not raid marijuana dispensaries. And look what he's done. Marijuana dispensary raids in California.
Yep, he was quoted in saying exactly what we're saying, in that the police have a lot more important things to focus on than busting someone for marijuana, and they have rapists and violent offenders that they need to focus on, and that should be the focus of the police force. I would love to see an America that no longer has quote-unquote victimless crime. You can have non-violent crimes like fraud, but not victimless crimes. If it's truly victimless, then it's not a crime.
If you have not seen it, if you're not familiar with it, and you want a good laugh at what marijuana was in the 50s, it's available on YouTube. Just look up Reefer Madness.
Yeah, it's hard to watch that and imagine that people actually believed that that was the reality.
And that's the thing,
yes,
they did believe that.
And Jeff, the point, one point I wanted to make in the reason that people in Washington and Colorado have gotten to the point where they're so progressive that they're willing to legalize marijuana, the deciding factor right there that I want to stress more than anything is education. Once again, it goes back to being educated, having the information on hand, understanding the facts, being capable and being willing to explore and research the truth rather than just accepting what's being handed to you as in, the propaganda film Reefer Madness.
Right, and we have a huge problem with propaganda being set out to the people, and once again, the mainstream media, they're complicit. They will not, you don't see a lot of studies about this being broadcast. You don't. There are plenty of great documentaries, but a lot of them do not get posted onto places like CNN. Once again, I'm beating up on CNN.
So I think I'm going to go ahead now and ask you for all of you for your final thoughts. Pirate Fish, you go first, please.
Hey, my thoughts on it, I'm all in favor. I mean, this whole war on drugs thing in the U.S. has to end. It's a waste of time, a waste of billions of dollars in tax money a year. And like I said in the earlier discussion, up here in Canada, it's not legal, but nobody really cares about it anymore. Not for the user base, and that's what you guys got to address.
Okay, Jeff, final thoughts.
We need to legalize and tax and regulate marijuana, and we also need to, and I'm very, you could say I'm quite libertarian on this one. You shouldn't have big government telling you what you can and cannot put in your body and how much of it. You should be able to take responsibility for the actions that you do when you take a substance. And you should be allowed to, smoke marijuana, drink alcohol, do whatever, as long as you don't harm anybody. And as long as you don't harm anybody, it's not a crime. And then, of course, we also have to get rid of the lobbying power of places like Big Pharma. And for God's sakes, we should not have private prison corporations. Private prison corporations are horribly wrong. We need to wake up and get rid of that whole idea. People should not make money off incarcerating other people, especially incarcerating our own people, in which we do more of than any other place in the world. We incarcerate more people than North Korea. Wake the fuck up.
Aren't we number one in people in prison right now in the developed world?
We're number one.
50%,
we outnumber China.
50% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prison population. That's the U.S.
All right. Well, my final thoughts are these. I mean, I can't disagree with either one of you. Legalize marijuana, and of course we need to end the private prison industry. Absolutely, we shouldn't be making money off of imprisoning people, incentivizing those companies to lock more people up. We need to get rid of the big pharma influence in politics. That's absurd. We need to legalize marijuana. It's ridiculous. Cannabis, hemp. We can use this as food. We can use this as building equipment. We can use it as medicine. We can use it as a way to eliminate our need to ever chop down another tree ever again. We can use it as a source of energy. We can use it for so many things. It has endless possibilities for endless uses. We're sitting on a gold mine. We're literally burning it to the ground because we believed for so long this propagandist nonsense about this demon plant that's going to turn you into an insane person. It's nowhere near as dangerous as alcohol, nowhere near as deadly or as bad for you as smoking cigarettes, and it's absolutely absurd that it's illegal. Imagine if we made other plants in your garden illegal. Imagine if growing tomato plants was suddenly made illegal. Would people feel the type of outrage that is deserving of this particular issue, telling other people you can't grow that certain type of plant? Because that's the reality of what we're looking at right now, and it needs to stop. It's foolishness, it's madness, it's a waste of time, money, and ultimately the most important thing, it's a waste of people's lives because people are rotting in jail because of a plant. Thank you. Thank you for watching TYT. Thank you for watching this episode, and please join us in future episodes. Subscribe to our channel and join us all on Twitter, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.